Okay, cheers. This is the same style of beer I brewed today. My amber ale. Looks darker. Hang on, I'll try and video it from this side. It started as a American red rye and then went to American amber, and then I put it in a competition, Beer Fest 2017, earlier this year, as they didn't have a proper category for me to put it in, so I put it in English ale under like an ESB, because it's not quite as hoppy as a lot of American amber ales, but and it came fourth, I think it was, third or fourth. But anyway, I was going to go over the recipe, but I'll put a link for the recipe. But it's mainly, a 2-row and a bit of Munich and a bit of dark crystal and a tiny little bit of roasted barley just for colour more than anything else. Cheers. This camera to start with. There you go. That's a better colour of it. I've nearly finished it now. It was darker and it tasted better with its dark Simpsons instead of the dark Gladfield crystal. But it's still nice with the Gladfield. But I prefer the Simpsons dark crystal. Just as I finished it, I remembered. I actually did a recipe video for this recipe. Wasn't in the Robo Brew, but exactly the same recipe. And I'll put that up soon. It goes into the recipe a little bit more detail. Cheers. It's quite a fine crush because it's still sort of set up for when I had wheat. But I don't know if you can see that. There's still enough fairly close to whole shells of grain. It's probably a little bit finer than I would have done in the past. Nearly up to strike temp. So that's close enough for me at the moment to preheat my mash tun. I filled up last night at about 47 litres. So I'll put 7 litres in. For preheat. Quick tip in under 5 minutes. My strike water is just about to come up to 75. I've got it set for. Stir your HLT. This is exactly the same for just switched off at 75. It's exactly the same for a Robo Brew, Grainfather, HLT like this with an element. A gas one, on the stove, an induction plate, it doesn't matter. See, someone might come and go, oh right, 75 degrees, let's mash in. Your strike temperature is very important. It stops your system working too hard, and if you get it right the first time, especially if you're not using recircing like I'm not today, it's very important. If you're out by 3 or 4 degrees or 2 degrees, you might be over or under. Depending on what scale in the mash temperature you're aiming for. But I'll show you. See, that's gone up to 75.5 now. Just from the residual, heat mixing around from the element. I'll give it a stir. Dang, I just heard it click back on. That's gone to 67 now. That was at 75. That would make a hell of a... Oh, it's gone up to 68. Hitting up to 69. It's a heat, the element's back on. Now look, there's 5, 6, 7 degrees difference. This is Celsius. In Fahrenheit, that's even a lot more. I'll put it on the screen. But get it right. Stir a couple of times. I'll let this get back up to 75 again. I'll give it another stir. Because those couple of degrees can really matter and save your system working so hard. We're getting close again, and I can hear everyone going, hang on, but I've got to pump and recirc, and yes, that will help adjust your mash after your mashing and everything to get it to temperature. But I see a lot of people that don't turn on the pump before they mash in. So it can really help. It's up to you. I know the mash temperature will adjust in 10 or 15, whatever, how long it's going to take, depending how far you are out. But turn your pump on while you're heating your water, at least near the end. You know, let it heat up and then turn it on, and just make sure your temperatures are right before mashing. Okay, we'll try again. This is going to be the second stir. Of course, you don't have to wait till it gets to temp. You start stirring it, like, you know, when you see it getting a degree or two out. Just help it along. Alright, what's that stir done? That stir's gone to, I see it's back 75. So you see we're much closer now. And if that doesn't go down or up too much, I'm right to mash in. I am 75.2. Tips in under 5 minutes. Cheers. I've emptied out the preheat water. The mash in for this is 14 litres at 75 degrees for me. My grain's at 10 degrees. It's a cold day today. Let's go. Just take your time sometimes. It's a bit hard when you're by yourself sometimes, but don't waste too long because you are losing heat, of course. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Down the bottom, I can't see any dough balls. Just give it a good stir. It's a bit gluggy. Should be good. Not too thin, not too thick. Oops, there was a dough ball. Only a little one. Don't crunch it. I just want to get this lid on. It's very cold here today, and I've been mucking around with the camera, so I wouldn't be surprised if I'm down a couple of degrees. It's looking pretty good though. Alright, let's get the lid on. I'm going to go shopping, so it might end up being a 90-minute mash instead of an hour. That doesn't really matter. Because it is so cold, I'm just going to chuck my trusty old blanket over it that you've probably seen in a few other videos in the past. I could wrap it up better than that, but that is going to at least help a little bit. It hasn't really settled yet. I've only just thrown the blanket on, but we'll see where we're sitting at. I was aiming for 66, and we're about, oh yeah, close enough for me. Actually, you know, you can't get much closer when you're doing it, you know, like I am, but that's what you want. You want to get your mash temp, try and get it spot on at first, and then you don't have to worry. Most of this mash will be done within 20 minutes, half an hour. The rest, the longer you leave it, is just for a little bit of assurance. And here we are. It's actually been an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours actually. I got carried away, had to go down the shops. But anyway, so I've lost a few degrees. I might not make mash out temp, but it doesn't really matter. There we go, it's looking good. Alright, 8 litres I'm putting in at around 96 degrees. So where are we? 26 and 18. So there's 8 litres. Now it doesn't matter, as I said before, don't stress too much about mash out. I mean, mash out really does help for consistency in beers, but it's not essential for just a normal beer. Nothing much to worry about. But what it will do, this, since out of that, will make that first runnings, or the runnings, flow a lot easier. Alright, I'm just going to leave that settle for about 5 minutes since I stirred it, and we'll start the Vorlauf. Just the usual recirc, or whatever you want to call it, just to help clear out any chunks that have gone into the manifold. I just go fast at first, clear the big bits out, and do a few jugs. Depending on the brew, I might do 5 jugs, 2 jugs, you know, however clear you want it. It's really, as long as you're not getting big chunks of grain husk, that's all it really matters, of course. Anyway, I won't film all this, so I might do 5 of these. I end up actually only doing 4 jugs, and I just noticed like it's clear enough now. I'll try and quickly show you. I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up. It doesn't really matter, as long as there's no grain in it. But that's I don't know if you see that on camera. That's nice and clear now. So, start taking the runnings. She's looking fairly dark. I did darken this batch up a bit from the last batch. But it'll be nearly clear by the time we finish sparging. Now what you do is just keep an eye out to start seeing the grain bread. There's still a couple of inches there to go. As soon as I start seeing it, there's about an inch of it left, I'll start the sparge, which is my simple ghetto sparge, which is that. It's just the hose from the HLT, and that's all you need, seriously. You can have all your fancy sparge arms if you like, and they don't do any harm, of course, but I just find most of the time they're not needed. It would be nice to spread it out a little bit more, but I've had no issues at all. Just more stuff to clean. Another thing I do these days is I'm getting older, getting old, brothers and sisters. I swap out these buckets before they get too full. They can go straight in my boil kettle, and as soon as I get enough cover the elements, I can start it warming up to the boil, and it just makes a speedier brew day. It's a bit hard to see. I'm not going to bother because it's so dark you probably won't see it on camera anywhere. We're about, what's that? So just over an inch away from the grain bread. I'll start the sparging, and you just try and match up the amount of water going in to the amount of water going out. And just try and keep that level above the grain bed. Simple. I started at 28, which is this there, and I need 16, so I'll go down to 12, which is down the bottom here. Only trouble with the fly sparge is you've got to keep your eye on it, otherwise you'll miss it. I don't know if you can see down that water's clear on top already. If you can pick that up, that's what you want. So you want to keep the clear water on top, and that pushes down all the goodness that through, rinses the grain. Doing videos and I wasn't looking, and I've gone a little bit slow, so it's nice and clear on top, but I need to up the rate a bit because I'm nearly starting to poke through. It's about time I change the bucket again. Nearly at my 12. Oops, got to keep my eye on the ball. I'll cut that off. And we'll let that drain through. Quick tip in under 5 minutes. This again applies to all grain systems like mine in this esky. It applies to grain fathers, robo brews, anything. I only Vorlaufed about 8 litres of this today. And you can see from the fine grain dust that's on top of there, that dust sometimes, if you've been Vorlaufing or recircling the whole mash, can build up quite thick, and that can actually make forced channeling. Your sparge water will be going down the sides, it won't be going through the middle. That'll lower your efficiencies and things like that. And it doesn't hurt just to break that up on the top. Look at it, that powder. Now, this never was such a problem in the old days, but grain's been ground a lot finer these days, and even I'm guilty of it. And that can easily stuff. Like, I'm not going right down deep, just breaking it up on the top so that the water can get through. Some people think they've got a stuck sparge, and technically it is when it starts pooling on top, but it's not like not to the point where you have to. You can see channeling there. Look, it's not to the point where I have to blow air up it or give it a big stir. It's just to make sure that you're getting through this gunk. It's like a it's just the powder. It does not turn. It's not showing up real well on the camera. That stuff. That's mainly because I brought in the mill to a lot finer because I was using a wheat, and it was a lot smaller grain. And I haven't put it back, so I've left it like that for my grain, but you can see how much of the dust it produces. Alright, I think we're just about there. Ignore those holes. I was stuffing around for another video, which you'll see soon. I was playing with the gunk. Anyway, we're just about done. Look how clear that's coming out now. That's a good sign that you know that grain is rinsed. Once that stops running out of there, chuck that in and we're good to boil. There we go. The last of it. And it should by rights in my system be about 32 litres. Boil it. Anyway, we're just at the boil, and take a sample for reading, and we're going to add some hops. Now it's up to you what bittering hops you use. I've used Warrior and Magnum, as long as you bitter to about, I bitter mine to 26.2 it seems to be on Beer Smith in my 60-minute boil, so about 26 IBUs. For this time I'm using Magnum, and it's about 13%. So it's going to take about 19 grams. I think I used Warrior last time, it was 18 grams. Whatever you use to about 26 IBUs. There we go, I'll chuck them into there. Okay, I've chilled the sample down, and a more manageable temperature. And we'll see what my pre-boil was. I was aiming for about 1046. Oh no, that's totally wrong. 1046 is my OG. What it's supposed to be the start. My estimate for pre-boil is 1038, and I'm getting too much. 1040. See, I don't like that. Some people like getting extras. It's not that I'm, but you know, I just like to keep my beers a little bit lower in alcohol. That's not going to make much difference anyway. So I'm at 1040, which is about, it's a bit hard to read this one on the brick scale, but it looks like to be about 10.4 nearly. It's getting windy here if you can't hear me. Blowing a gale. Anyway, there's half a workload. 5 minutes to go, and I'm going to throw some PVP in. It's not 100% necessary, but I like to use it. I'll put in about a teaspoon. Okay, we'll come back 30 seconds left to go. I'll whack in some Whirlpool hops. That'll be it. A couple of minutes to go. I chucked the bag in there just to half sanitise. I don't think it's really necessary. It's going to sit in that boiling water for 10 minutes anyway for the Whirlpool. But I chucked the bag in there. I took out the bittering hops. There's no need to leave them in for the last couple of minutes. They've done their job. And the oils are in the wort already, and they'll continue to bitter. Well, they probably won't, because I think they'll be just about finished. But yeah, the oils are already in the wort. I didn't record that, sorry. I put the hops in the bag, and I just shook them around a bit for about 30 seconds, just like, you know, like a tea bag, and then put the lid on, turn the elements off, and I'm going to leave that sit there for 10 minutes, then I'll hook the chiller up. We'll talk about hop variety later. I happen to use Citra today, which is not the hop I usually use with this brew, but we'll talk about it once we talk about the recipe. Alright, we'll see where we got. I've chilled it down a bit. I think I'm going to be up a little bit. I didn't really want to be, as I said before, but you know, what can you do? I should have stopped the boil a bit early maybe. Although, then again, if this reading is accurate, I'm bloody spot on. That's good. That's good. I've been having a bit of issues with my element controller. One of them's just full on now, so I should stop using it. It means it's probably fused out inside it or something's bust in it. So I've had to turn the other one right down. So the boil isn't as consistent as it usually is, and I'm assuming that's what it is. So that means I'll probably get a little bit more wort out at the end, which isn't a bad thing, because I'm pretty happy that I'm at my 1046. Which is also just about, it's just over 1046, and it looks to be just about spot on 12 bricks for those that are interested. So we're chilling now. The groundwater's very cold today, so we're smashing it. We're on 19C, which is perfect. And we're going into my fermenter. I'm using the Mangrove Jack's fermenter today. Still haven't uploaded the video I did on this one, but and we're going in at a fair rate. They won't take long at all at that rate to fill up. Five minutes it's been. Oh, look at that, and we're just about done. Supposed to be 23 litres, I reckon, because of the softer boil. I might get up to 25. And I've used fern cap as well, so it's not going to matter in here. I'm having issues with my phone. I don't think any of that recorded. Anyway, USO 5. Use whatever yeast you want. I find USO 5, I've always got it around, and it suits most of my ales, anything I like, unless you want something fancy. I'm not known for being fancy. That's the last thing I'm known for. There you go. I'll come and check it tomorrow. See how she's going. She should be fine. Should be done fermenting probably in about 7 days, probably less. I'll ferment it about 19. I'll dry hop for about 3 days before I think it's going to be ready. Cheers. Alright, we've just hit the boil, so I'll take some wort to take a reading. Don't tip it up if you got one of these, oops, because it'll spurt everywhere. Gonna get that out without it spurting? No. Got to put your finger over the end. Look at that. I can't do this one-handed.